Today me and Rose are going to take you through a planche press to handstand. It's going to be a quick guide, no fluff. So just going from this position up to handstand. Now obviously we need a handstand and then we need to have a tuck planche of some sort. Now if you don't have those things, you can use wall assist and you can do easier variations or some of the drills towards this movement, but obviously you're not going to have a freestanding clean one going from that planche position to a handstand if you don't have the movements at the top and the bottom. But that's what we need to do to start with, is just get that handstand position. So warm up your handstand, whether that is using the wall slightly if you need to, just spend some time there, make sure it's nice and strong. Then we need to do the same for our tuck planche. Now that could be while you're warming up, it could be toe assist, so very, very light toes in that position, but ideally it would be in a normal tuck planche position. And then for the actual training reps, we want to do something for the concentric, so they're going up, and there's something for the controlled eccentric, so going down. The reason we want to do both of those and not just train the up is the down allows us to go much slower and spend more time under tension through the area, through the pathway, and fill any gaps. Now this is very different weather to what we have been having. It's been blue skies for the last few weeks, if not months, and now we've got rain coming in. So it makes a change. Then we want to look at our handstand to tuck. So that's going to allow us to get as deep as possible while keeping the hip on top of the hands and not planching forwards and creating lots of stress or extra strength work needed. So into that position, our handstand, come down to your deepest tuck position. Now it could be a little bit froggy. You could have the knees apart slightly. It could be shoulders forward slightly, but the further forwards I take the shoulders, the more strength I'm using. In this position, the more flexibility I'm using. So coming down to that position, and if we look then at the distance that we have to move from that position to the tuck planche, the distance isn't very big. So the deeper we can make that tuck handstand position, the less distance we have to cover then on that next section, take us from that tuck handstand to the tuck planche. Now if you are someone that has a very deep, nice tuck, it is going to allow you to bring your knees down very far, but the other thing it does is it puts you a little bit more into an arch, sends your hip that way, and doesn't round the upper back so much. So that's actually going to be quite challenging for you to get from that open back position to a rounded, protracted planche position for the scapula. Then we're just going to take it a little bit deeper and see if we can get from the tuck handstand down into some sort of tuck planche, or just put toes to the floor, but try and go through the best way or the slowest way through that pathway of going down with the hip. So what I mean by that is we get down to this position here with the tuck. So the next section is the hip has to come down, shoulders come forwards, and we might need to put our toes on the floor. So then it's that movement, so shoulders come forwards, hips come backwards. Now if we find we struggle with balance there, or if you drop big time, we could use the wall. So I'm going to have my hand about a hand distance away. I'm going to externally rotate, so give me a lot of room to move the shoulders. Kick up to your handstand position, come to your tuck, but stick your butt on the wall. So in this position, round the low back, round the mid back, round the upper back, come down as far as you can. So that allows me to slow down that hip coming down movement, the shoulders coming forwards movement. The issue is that my head does get in the way, and it is a little bit false because I'm leaning on the wall. Now obviously when the wall's not there, there's nothing to lean on, and I'm going to carry on in that direction. So we do need to build some control and strength, ideally away from the wall. But that is a nice way to start to train that movement. Then once we know where we're at with the eccentric, then we're going to add the concentric. Now a cool way of doing the concentric is I can just go in that kneeling position. So if you watch some of my other videos on kneeling entries to handstand, I'm a big fan of doing this one. Having the hip down nice and low towards the floor, and then I'm going to pass through my tuck planche, jump as much as I need to go up on the concentric, and now I'm in the handstand. I can do another one of those eccentrics, coming down as slow as possible, back to that position. And then I can just fine tune how much I'm helping myself coming off the floor, using the legs, using a little bit of jump to get up. And then we just turn that dial down to take you closer and closer to the actual planche press. Now let's go back to the eccentric now and focus on holding the tuck planche at the bottom. So you're up a notch in terms of difficulty. So, whoops. So handstand position there, come down to your tuck. Go down nice and slow, get into a real tight tuck, into your tuck planche. Now there, if I do struggle with that one, I can allow my knees to lightly press against my arms, push the arms into the knees, cause a bit of friction. Be careful we don't bend the arms there. That is another option we could use, but the trouble is with bending the arms, it creates another habit that we have to try and get rid of. So ideally keeping the arms straight, but do use a bit of friction there if you need to. And then back to the concentric again. Now with the concentric this time, I'm just going to use a bit of momentum to go up. I'm not going to push off the legs so much. So I'm going to be back further this way, and it's sort of going to be forwards and then up. So I can rock forwards, planche and up to handstand. And then I'm there, might as well do another eccentric, back down, see if I can catch in that tuck planche position. So that one was much harder than the pushing off the legs because I'm basically just rocking forwards and using momentum. But the same deal, I can turn that up and I can turn it down. Now another option to help us with the eccentric and the concentric as well is to put a band around the hips and go up and down. Now that's another one to play with that can be beneficial, but I would definitely not only use that one. Any of the ones that really assist you, like the wall, like the band, like having someone spot you, I would make sure that you're doing the other movements like the eccentrics and the concentrics without that assistance, because again, it can become a habit or like a crutch that you always need and it's hard to get rid of. And those drills should take you just about there. And then you can just start trialing it where you just have a very small pause in the planche before you go. So I'd obviously start with a tight tuck planche, hold for a second, then try and go. Get the eccentric as a bonus on the way back down, come back out again. And then all you do is just start to increase the time in the tuck planche before you go up. Now, if I'm going to hold the tuck planche and demo going up from there for longer than a second, I'm not going to be able to talk. So let's see if I can go for like 4 or 5 seconds in the tuck planche before going up. See, that was much harder. Now, if I'm programming this, I would normally tie it together with some sort of skin to cap, front lever pulls or something like that. So doing the opposite type of movement where we're keeping the arms straight, bringing the torso to the arms and back down again. It's a good way to superset that. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions on this one. Thumbs up and subscribe would be appreciated, and I'll speak to you next time. Thanks, guys.